We may have just witnessed the most single honest moment explaining MAGA politics that I have ever seen. And it was delivered on Sean Hannity's program. And the person who delivered this moment of honesty and clarity, I don't think even realized what she was admitting. Now, let me build up to it and explain what's going on. Yesterday, I played the clip of Trump endorsed Senator Darline Graham. Remember, this is Lindsey Graham's surviving sister. Lindsey Graham's sister, Darline Graham, who is now saying, hey, not just a few months of me being senator, elect me to a 6-year term. She participated in a debate and she was asked, are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security threats to the United States? And she said, we looked at this yesterday, I have no idea.
Senator, are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States? If so, why?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States, and if so, why or how?
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, so...
Yeah, we know.
But I do support the military. My brother was in the air.
There you go. I support the military, but I don't know what you're saying. So as we talked about yesterday, sitting U.S. senator running for a full 6-year term, nobody expects every senator to arrive in Washington knowing every detail of every foreign policy dispute. But Taiwan and the South China Sea are not these obscure topics. Taiwan is at the middle of possibly the most dangerous confrontation between the U.S. and China. It's a critical region to global shipping. Semiconductor supply chain runs through Taiwan. If there were to be a Chinese invasion or blockade of Taiwan, all of a sudden, that could be massive economic damage to the United States. We could all of a sudden be dragged into a military conflict between nuclear powers. So you don't need to be Secretary of State to understand that, yes, it's a national security issue. And saying I support the military is not an answer. It's like, hey, do you understand heart surgery? And you go, I support doctors. I really do. So after that humiliating performance, Darline Graham goes on Sean Hannity's Fox News show to try to clean it up. And I have to tell you, a piece of her explanation is way more revealing than the original answer. Take a listen to this.
I think you're 100% right, Sean. And, I tripped up on one question last night regarding Taiwan. But, I've said many times, I'm not a politician, certainly not a career politician. I don't speak politician. I was just honest, and I think that's kind of a foreign concept. But I talked to several people today. I traveled around the state, and they said, we appreciated the fact that you were honest. And
by the way, even this characterization is untrue because there's viral video of people at a town hall saying to her, do you realize how insanely bad that looked? And do you realize that you need to know that stuff? So anyway, her characterization that everybody thinks what happened is fine is not true, but that's not the issue. Listen to what she says here about the priorities of South Carolinians.
I did say several times that, China is our enemy, our military and economic threat to the United States. Of course, Taiwan is our friend, but I think people...
They're our friend.
In South Carolina are more worried about making ends meet. They're concerned about boys and girls sports. One lady talked to me extensively about that today. They're concerned about the Second Amendment.
Yeah. I've got to give it to Darline Graham. That is an astonishingly honest summary of MAGA brain rot. She's essentially saying, yes, I knew nothing about one of the most consequential geopolitical flashpoints in the world. But Republican voters were talking to me about trans athletes, boys and girls sports. Now, she still has not explained why Taiwan matters. She just said Taiwan is our friend and China is our enemy. And then she goes into these culture war talking points that she's memorized. Boys and girls sports. Someone talked to me about that today, not my humiliating F up in this debate. And this is extraordinarily illuminating. This is how the modern Republican Party works. Understanding policy is optional. Experts, we should be very suspicious of. Complicated questions are dismissed because I'm not a politician and I don't talk like a politician. And then they redirect everything into whatever tiny emotionally charged cultural controversy is going to keep them fired up. Now, transgender sports rules can be debated. States and athletic organizations have been dealing with this for a very long time. I don't think we need the federal government involved in it whatsoever. But presenting the idea that the true concerns of South Carolinians are boys and girls sports rather than a conflict that could arise between the US and China over Taiwan, which could totally derail the American economy. That is utterly, utterly deranged. And her defense is the voters here don't care about whether their senator understands national security as long as she knows which people we are supposed to be afraid of. And it is boys and girls sports. And I hate to admit it, but she may be right. Now, as an important note, she may be right that the voters in South Carolina who would vote for her do care more about that because they've been told you should care more about that. As a very interesting side note, South Carolina already bans trans girls and women from competing in girls and women's sports in elementary through public college. So by their definition, this is not really a problem in South Carolina, but she would still rather panic voters about something that's already banned by law than learn the basics of national security. Now, Hannity trying to do more cleanup duty. He goes, why is everyone making a big deal out of this anyway? Nobody knows where Taiwan is on a map.
Wow. Even worse than Hillary, though, Radical Squad leader AOC simply could not answer basic questions about global affairs. This is about so this issue of Taiwan came up last night, and I know people have made a big deal about it. And I'm like, I wonder how many people around the country, if I gave them a map, could pick out Taiwan. I don't think many, and not just in, I mean the whole country, never mind South Carolina. Wow.
Yeah. Other people wouldn't know where it is on a map, so it's completely fine that you had no idea. Now, I do think, listen, I don't know how many people could find Taiwan on a map. It's actually kind of easy to find. You just look at a map of Asia, you see China, and off the southeast coast, there's an island, and that's Taiwan. Do people really not know that? I mean, I'm certain it sounds like Darline Graham is saying the people she's meeting in South Carolina don't know it, but I think a lot of people do know it. But just a panic to run interference and an honest moment where she goes, listen, I'm talking to people more about boys and girls sports, which is not even a real issue, than I am about conflict with Taiwan. And they seem to care more about it. Well, the reason they seem to care more about it is the Republican Party has spent 8 years fear-mongering about exactly that issue. Thanks for watching. Check out this other video. And if you like our content, make sure to subscribe so YouTube puts our videos in your feed, and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple.